Welcome, and thanks to everyone for joining the Arthur Ross Gallery for this 12 at 12 program. I'm Heather Moctaderi, the Assistant Director and Curator of the Arthur Ross Gallery. 12 at 12 is a 12-minute talk series held on the first Wednesday of each month. Today, we are joined by Caroline van Cauwenberge, who will be speaking on a painting by Domenicus van Tol, titled Children Blowing Bubbles at a Window, in our current exhibition, An Inner World, 17th-Century Dutch Genre Painting. The exhibition features Dutch Golden Age paintings by the Leiden Fijnschilders, including important works by Gabriel Metsu and Gerrit Douw from the Leiden Collection and the Clark Art Institute, along with rare books and manuscript loans from the Kislak Center for Special Collections, Rare Books and Manuscripts here at the Penn Libraries. The exhibition is open to the public, and the catalog is available through the University of Pennsylvania Press. You can go to arthurrossgallery.org to learn about visiting, and we'll post a link to the catalog in the chat. Before I turn the program over to Caroline, I'd like to introduce her. Caroline van Cauwenberge is the Curatorial Associate and Digital Content Coordinator at the Leiden Collection in New York, where she contributes to research on the collection and manages projects surrounding the online Leiden Collection catalog, which is wonderful. And I encourage you to go to their website, which will be posted in the chat, and read the rich essays that are provided there and look at the beautiful high resolution images. Previously, Caroline held positions at David Tunick Incorporated and the European Fine Art Fair, otherwise known as TFAF, New York. She received her BA in Art History from the KU Leuven in 2016 and her MA in Art History, focusing on Netherlandish art, from the Courtauld Art Institute in 2017. And for this exhibition, Caroline contributed catalog biographies of the painters, as well as English translations of the Dutch titles for the 17th century rare books, some of which are quite lengthy. There will be time for questions at the end. You're welcome to use the chat to put your questions in there for Caroline at the end. And we just ask that you stay muted during the program and enjoy. So thank you, Caroline, and welcome.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Heather. So I'm Caroline, and today I will be presenting the following painting by Domenicus van Tol, Children at a Window Blowing Bubbles. The painting is part of the An Inner World exhibition currently on view at the Arthur Ross Gallery at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. This exhibition was curated by Lara Jaeger-Perselt and Heather Gibson Moctaderi. I've included some installation shots of the exhibition because I know some of you might not be able to see it in person, which is a shame, but these are extraordinary circumstances. But I also wanted to give you an idea of the size of the painting, and I'm going to be presenting about this painting. And here you have a close-up view of the same wall. And I would say the painting is slightly bigger than an iPad, so it's pretty small. This charming genre scene by Domenicus van Tol depicts two children dressed in everyday clothes, blowing soap bubbles at a stone windowsill. The boy, with his chubby cheeks and curly blonde hair, looks upwards at the translucent bubble that floats past him into the darkness. In his right hand, he holds a pipe, with another bubble forming at its end. His female companion, also using a long pipe, blows bubbles in soapy liquids contained in the shell that the boy is holding in his other hand. Compositionally, the present painting is very closely related to another painting by Van Tol, in which the same pair is seen, but now they're playing with a mousetrap. This painting is in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and has the same window frame, curtain, and flower pot, but the position of the children has been reversed. The creator of these paintings, Domenicus van Tol, was a nephew of the famous artist Gerrit Douw, who is known as a founder of the Leiden Fijnschilders, or fine painters. And this is a self-portrait by Douw in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Dou's reputation attracted many apprentices, and because of the close family relationship between Domenicus van Tol and Gerrit Dou, scholars presume that Dou was van Tol's teacher as well. Dou's enormous impact on his pupils and numerous followers shaped a generation of Leiden Veenschilders who would continue to prosper well into the 18th century. This school of painters was specialized in small-scale genre painting, particularly domestic scenes set in interior spaces, executed in a meticulous technique. The influence of Dou on his nephew's art is evident in both subject matter and style. However, here we can see that Dou executed Children at the Window, Blowing Bubbles with a more fluid brushwork than his master. Nevertheless, Van Tol was definitely able to also emulate the virtuoso refined style of his uncle. And in fact, some paintings by Van Tol have even been mistakenly attributed to Gerrit Dou in the past. And this is an example in the Leiden Collection, A Boy with a Mousetrap by Candlelight, that was traditionally attributed to Gerrit Dou, but was actually painted by Domenicus van Tol. Furthermore, according to an anonymous Dutch 18th century biographer, Van Tol, of all of the Leiden Veenschilders, was the one who came most close to his uncle's manner and stuck with it. In Children at the Window, Blowing Bubbles, Van Tol integrated some of Dou's most recognizable motifs, such as the illusionistic device of the stone arch window which frames the scene. The compositional motif, developed by Dou in the 1640s, is used to break the pictorial threshold, creating the illusion that the figures cross into the viewer's space. This type of painting was extremely popular at the time and is known as a niche painting or a niche piece. The striped curtain that reveals the scene and the flower pot in front of the window that protrudes into the viewer's space are two other compositional motifs that enhance the painting's illusionism and that are often found in works by Dou. In addition to these three favorite compositional devices, Van Tol employed here another standard feature of Dou's designs, specifically the stone relief, depicting a group of putti, one trying on a mask, playing with a goat. Dou used the exact same composition, the window niche composition, together with the striped curtain and the flower pot in front of the window in his painting in Buckingham Palace, London, The Grocer's Shop. And I think this comparison is pretty remarkable. The relief below the window ledge is based on a marble relief by the renowned 17th century Flemish sculptor Francois Duquesnoy, who spent most of his working life in Rome and assimilated the classical style. His tender and sensuous reliefs of putti and satyrs were highly influential, and it was not uncommon to find copies after Duquesnoy's sculptures circulating among European artists who looked at his work as a model to imitate. The original relief that Van Tol repeated in Children at the Window, Blowing Bubbles was created by Duquesnoy in the 1620s and is in Galleria Doria Pamphili in Rome. The Leiden Veenschilders' fascination with this particular relief is remarkable. First of all, it served as a template for Dou, and today the two paintings that I already showed during this presentation includes this relief. So in his self-portrait in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and in his painting in Buckingham Palace in London. But there are many more examples. It was also a standard motif for many of Dou's followers. Here we see a painting by Willem van Meuris, who used the relief in a similar way as Dou and Van Tol below the window ledge. And Jacob Torenvliet, who was related to Gerrit Dou, inserted Duquesnoy's relief in another way. And here you can see it as an object among other objects on the table in his painting, Allegory of Painting. And this is a work in the Leiden Collection in New York. The mask held by the putto is a symbol of pictura or painting. So here you can see the putto holding the mask. And the mask was seen as a metaphor for visual deception in painting. According to art theory of the time, painting should delight and fool the eye of the viewer in the same way the goat is viewed by the mask. And indeed, the relief, together with the window niche, the curtain, and the pot, do not only enhance the painting's illusionism and trompe-l'œil effect, but also function to display the artist's skill. In a single painting, Van Tol demonstrates he can imitate different textures: the smooth surface of carved stone, the soft flesh of children's cheeks, and the woven fabric of the curtain. Furthermore, by painting the work by another artist, Van Tol demonstrates that he can not only imitate nature, but that he also can surpass, or he tries to surpass, another art form. The fragile soap bubbles are a clear demonstration of Van Tol's virtuosity, but they also have a symbolic meaning. They symbolize the brevity of life, and this theme is reinforced by the skull and hourglass placed on the mantelpiece in the background, which are, of course, two old-aged vanitas symbols. We call this painting a homobula. The expression homobula, man is a bubble, is a classical saying, but it was revived by Erasmus when he reintroduced it in his Adagia in the early 16th century. The subject was not only depicted by Domenicus van Tol, but it was a common genre theme in 17th century Dutch painting. And here we can see an example by Frans van Mieris, which was a famous student of Gerrit Douw. There are also multiple homobula paintings known by Caspar Natscher. And in these two examples, the children are engaged in the same activity, but they are much more elegantly dressed than the two children in Domenicus van Tol's painting, with their fancy plumed berets and luxurious gowns. Bubbles as symbols of the fleeting nature of human existence were extremely popular in literature of the period as well. And here I have an excerpt of a sermon of Johannes Uytenbogaert, which compares men to bubbles. Just as children now know how to blow bubbles in a mussel shell, which are round and shiny, so they are a joy to see, as if they were something remarkable, and in less than an instant they disappear and are gone, so that we can see them no more. The theme was still popular in the 18th and 19th century. However, it's unclear if these later paintings still carry the original symbolic meaning. Today, the symbolism is often lost to the contemporary viewer, who appreciates children at the window blowing bubbles, mainly for its charming and playful character and for Van Tol's pictorial virtuosity. However, I think that Domenicus van Tol, by casting lively, adorable children as the main figures, adds an additional sting to this vanitas subject and makes the message that our lives will burst like a bubble even more poignant. It is definitely a painting that is meant to be a joy for the eye, but it also encourages you to contemplate. And this was highly appreciated by the learned 17th century viewer in Leiden, who really valued the minute details of the painting and the artist's skill, but also liked to be stimulated to reflect and contemplate about life. And it definitely gives an extra dimension to this work. I would really encourage you to see the exhibition in the world in Philadelphia, because you will see this work in context, and I think the message will become even more clear. So if you have the chance, I highly encourage everyone to go and see the intimate show. And I thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Caroline. That was marvelous. And I have a question, but does anyone in the audience want to start us out with a question on the talk? What I'd like to start us out with, Caroline, is, I believe that you're in process with the online catalog page for this painting. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the online Leiden Collection catalog and the process of putting together one of the catalog pages for an artwork.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So the online catalog of the Leiden Collection contains, I would say, more around 180 artwork entries at the moment. And before we publish an entry on a painting in the collection, which contains still a lot of paintings that have to be added, we start with research on the painting, and then I'm now writing an entry on Domenicus van Tol's Children and the Window Blowing Bubbles, but it goes through, it will be edited by our editor Lara Jaeger-Cresselt and Arthur Wheelock. But it's a long process because I hope everyone goes to our website and sees how deep the research is actually on the paintings. We focus on all the references, on the provenance, on the exhibition history, but also on the meaning of the paintings. And we try, to go as deep as we can go. So yeah.
Thank you. What other questions do we have? Yeah, I love how you highlighted the Duchesnois, the relief that is depicted, and that's such wonderful research. Do you have the sense that there were plaster copies floating around that were being used?
Yeah, definitely. There are some contemporary inventories. I think, for example, Rubens had a copy in his studio, and some art collectors. So there's definitely contemporary evidence that show that copies of Duquesnoy's reliefs and sculptures were circulating in around Rome, but also in the Low Countries. And that's something that I couldn't go I couldn't talk more in depth here during this short presentation, but it's definitely something that will be discussed in the entry in more detail. So, but it's interesting that it pops up in so many 17th century Dutch genre scenes. So it's definitely worth investigating it more.
So I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but one question that came in is, what resource do you recommend to read more about symbolism of the time?
Symbolism of the time. For this painting, I think I would focus. One book I recommend is it's a book by about Dutch genre theme prints. It was an exhibition. I forgot the author. Do I have it here with me? No, but a lot of the symbolism is also repeated in Dutch genre prints. And those prints make it more clear what the symbolism behind the images are, because often they have an inscription or a little rhyme that make that proves the symbolism behind these images. I can try to find the exact source actually now online and put it in the chat if that would help. But on the Leiden Fine Skilders, you have many exhibitions. I have here a book on Gerrit Douw by Ronnie Baer, for example, and an exhibition that was at the Mauritshuis in Den Haag, I also think in the 80s, which, the Mirror of Everyday Life. Thank you. It's in the chat, the title of the...
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And we had another question about your mention of Jacob Torenvliet. Oh gosh, I should have that on my tongue by now. Could you just talk a little bit about that and say the name again?
Jacob Torenvliet.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So, and what was the question exactly about?
Well, someone was just asking to rename that artist, and I put it in the chat. But do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Jacob Torenvliet, I think I showed one work of Jacob Torenvliet, which is in the Leiden Collection, the Allegory of Painting. But there is another work by Jacob Torenvliet, The Alchemist, that is actually on view in the Inner World exhibition. And he was a student and also a family member of Gerrit Douw. So he was part of the Leiden Fine Skilders tradition. Yes, yeah. But you can read more about the painting in our online catalog, and I think we have 4 other paintings by Torenvliet that are featured in our online catalog. And also, go and see The Alchemist in Philadelphia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Caroline. I don't see any more questions, but maybe hang out for a moment in case, as we're winding down, anyone wants to ask you anything. And we will also put a link in the chat in a moment to a program that we're having on Friday on alchemy as it relates to Dutch Golden Age painting and the exhibition. So Caroline, wow, thank you for all of your contributions to this exhibition, this wonderful program, and just best wishes with everything. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us today.